Arguably, the biggest splash addition in the entire transfer portal window was when Kansas big man Flory Bidunga decided to transfer to the University of Louisville. Hi, welcome to part 5 of my Louisville men's basketball individual roster breakdown, where we've been breaking down everyone from point guard now to center, and that will be, as I said, Flory Bidunga. All right, so Flory Bidunga, according to the University of Louisville's official website roster, is 6'9", 235 pounds. Now, everyone's gonna in the comments is gonna talk about how at the combine he was actually 6'7" and I think a quarter. Louisville men's basketball has put out their heights in shoes. Everyone who on roster who has official measurements like Carter Knox, Flory, Bina Akizi, and even Boyan Jong, who all have official barefoot measurements from some kind of NBA or higher level basketball, all are about an inch or so taller than listed on those things, and that's because they're being measured in shoes. He's 6'9", 235 according to their roster. In 25-26, he played 35 games, made 34 starts, and he averaged 13.5 points, 9 rebounds, 1.5 assists, and 2.5 blocks. He shot 64% from the floor and 65% from the free throw line. Didn't make any threes and attempted 2 or 3, I think. In his career, he's played 69 games and made 40 starts. Notably, he backed up Hunter Dickinson as a freshman. Last season, he was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, and he was also first team All Big 12. And again, as mentioned earlier, he is the consensus #1 player in the portal. Don't let those Kentucky fans tell you that it's not him, that it's the kid from Iowa State. It's Flory Bidunga. I've been comparing every new addition to Louisville's starting unit to the previous 2 starters of the Pat Kelsey era. And what I wanted to highlight here was that in the last 2 seasons, Louisville's had, last year with Sananda Frew more than with James Scott, they had serviceable or pretty decent centers, except for when it mattered most, and that's against good ranked teams. So I wanted to highlight averages against ranked teams. So you can see here, against ranked teams, Flory averaged 11 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 blocks, and only 2 fouls. That's important. James Scott, in year 1, averaged 5 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, not even a full block, and 3.5 fouls in every matchup against a ranked team. And Sananda Frew last year averaged 6 points, 5.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 1.5 blocks, and 3.7 fouls per game. Flory is going to be a game changer for Louisville, and the fact that when they play big ranked teams, they are going to continue to have the post presence regardless of the competition level. They're going to have someone in the paint who can get it done. So what are Flory's strengths and weaknesses? So in his strengths, and there's a lot of them, first thing I have is length, athleticism, and motor. So again, we mentioned that he's not the tallest guy for a center, and he is a center. Length. So his wingspan at the combine was over 7'3". So for anyone who watches the NBA, players who have 7'3" or shorter wingspans are guys that like Pascal Siakam, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Karl Anthony Towns, Nikola Jokic, Bam Adebayo. So I mean, he has elite length. His athleticism, off the charts. I mean, if you want to think someone his size and that kind of athleticism, I mean, there's a clip, I can't play clips on here. There's a clip of him against Duke last year where he's trapped. He's down at the dunker spot with his back underneath the basket, has nowhere to go, and has some beautiful footwork, and turns around and dunks all over Pat Ngongba. It's you just have to watch it. He's an elite athlete. He's got elite length in his motor. He's nonstop. He will run the floor. He will attack the basket. He will do anything that is asked of him, and he will do it with a high motor. He's a high-level screener. This is not a guy who's going to get called for a bunch of, Sananda Frew-esque screen fouls. He's going to set screens, he's going to set hard screens, and he's going to roll off of those screens and make good decisions. He's a great screener. A lot of people who, have never, they don't think about how good a great screen can be for a team, until you see it. I'm a Pacers fan, and I've never seen great screens, and until I saw Ivica Zubac set a few screens, and then it clicks. Like, that is just something that you can't describe how important it is to a team, and that's something that he can do and do it very well. Pick and roll defense. This is a guy that is not going to be a liability in the pick and roll defense. Thank God we're not doing the pack line defense. Where we're going to see him out defending, the Chris Mack style defense. But anyway, this is a guy that if he gets switched onto a guard, cool. He's gonna play great defense against that guard. If he's gonna roll to the paint, cool. Like he can do whatever you need in the pick and roll as a defender. Paint defense. This is a guy whose block rate, I think, led all of the Big 12 last year and was one of the best in the country. He's someone who, again, blocks 2.6 shots a game. He's a great paint defender. He's got long arms. He knows when to jump. He knows how to use the rule of verticality. He's a great defender. Help defense. This is a guy who can come from the weak side and block shots. This is a guy who can set traps. This is a guy who understands how to play defense and how to do it great. And now that we have Coach A, I only expect that to improve. I definitely there's been some concerns like, oh, this guy doesn't really match how Pat Kelsey plays. That's why Coach A is here. He's going to help Pat and his system, and he's going to help Flory continue to be the defender that he's been, if not even better. And then inside scoring, this is a guy, he might not have elite post moves, but he does have very good feet. He is a guy who can score very well on the inside, and he is someone that, as we've seen in the Pat Kelsey era, will benefit immensely from the Pat Kelsey offense, where his centers, James Scott, basically every point he ever scored here was off of lobs, like off of setups. This is a guy who can do that and then more. This is a guy who can put the ball on the floor a little bit better than you would think. He's someone who can pass a little bit. He's someone who can put the football on the deck and make some moves that you wouldn't expect him to, because he's the size of a, people don't think about it as him being a center, but he's the size of an NBA wing. This is a guy who can do those kind of things. Now his weaknesses, not nearly as much, and I'm not as enthused, obviously, but offense outside of the paint. This is a guy who's not shown yet to have much offense outside of the paint. I would love to see a push shot, maybe not even a mid-range, but just a push shot. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's a mid-range shot, but it's not a jumper. It's where they just go up one hand and push it. That's a very effective offensive game plan for centers who typically don't have good jumpers. Overall size, we talked about this. He's maybe 6'8", 6'9", depending on how you measure him. But he makes up for that with his wingspan. But he's also been listed at 220 at Kansas, but this year he's listed at 235. So hopefully that means he is getting a little bit bigger and can handle some of the bigger centers in college basketball. And then his free throw percentage is only about 64%. You'd like to see that closer to 70 for a center. But his free throw rate's not very high, so I don't know how much of those he'll be shooting. So what are my final thoughts and projections for Flory at Louisville next season? So my role for him is that he's going to be the defensive anchor for the team and just a paint beast. This is a guy who played in the Big 12 last year, which was probably the best conference in college basketball last season, and won DPOY and was a first-teamer. So I think that's easily something we can project to the ACC, which is a weaker conference overall. We have some good teams up top, but overall it's a weaker conference. So I expect him to be the ACC Defensive Player of the Year and a first-team member on All-ACC. And I think he's going to be in contention for National Defensive Player of the Year and could win that. And he could be in contention for a potential All-American team if he does so. And what do I think he will average next year? I think he's going to take a bump up in points per game at about 14.5. I think he stays steady at about 9 rebounds. I think he'll stay steady at about 1.5 assists. And I think his blocks will go up to 2.9, maybe 3 blocks a game. And then I would like to see his shooting percentage increase a little to 71%. The last 2 centers who play for Louisville, who are not as good as Flory, not even close, both shot over 70% from the floor in the Pat Kelsey offense. Sananda Frew was like 76% from the floor, and I think James Scott was around 72%. So I could see that for Flory, unless he starts to develop or starts to take shots outside of the paint. I can see his field goal percentage improve. And then his free throw percentage, I could see it remaining about the same. If you made it this far and you like what you see, please like, comment, subscribe. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. I'm on X. And obviously, I'm here on TikTok. I would enjoy all of those things if you could do that for me. And then again, as always, these videos are made in partnership with the 1912 Society. Their link is in my bio, and they've got big things coming. So check them out.